Right. Yeah, I think one other thing that like the tomahawk issue tells us, just the fact that they're being considered now is, it's not a sign of strength on the part of the U.S. and the West. It's actually quite the reverse, that they actually have gone this far to be talking about tomahawks, which they wouldn't have considered at all, shows the failure of every other system. Why are we here? It's because they are losing and everything else they've thrown at the Russians have failed to have an impact. So now we've actually gone to the point of talking about tomahawks. It's not something that they would have even been considered, at all, even remotely a couple of years ago. But here we are. And it's because they have run out of options. It's a sign of weakness on the part of the West that they're doing this.
Right. And it seems like, I don't know what else the U.S. has. People always want to say like, oh, we got some super wonder weapons. It's like, I don't know. Do we? I mean, we have like the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, but we've only built 21 of them, and probably less than half of them are operable, and we just never use it. It's just a showcase kind of item that's not actually for a war. And they cost, by the way, $2.13 billion each and $1997. So that means about $5 billion a piece just for that. And I just went through some of these things I was just looking at. Like, we built this Zumwalt class destroyer. Each one cost $7.5 billion. And we canceled just after 3 ships. We only built 3 of them. And because the gun system's ineffective. It just shows you just like, what do we have? Just all of these, the Virginia class submarine costs about $4 billion a piece. I just don't get it. It's so clear that we don't have anything left, but we are wanting to escalate slowly and just sort of expose our weakness, both on the economic front and the military front, and then of course on the moral front with Gaza. It's just all gone. I mean, I think, I don't know which one's more damaging. They're all so damaging. Like we talked about these, like the 3 billion pillars that support U.S. hegemony, is that moral pillar, the idea that we are somehow righteous people and liberal democracy is a great thing, and we have the right system and freedom and all this, and then the military, and then our economic might. But China has wiped out our economic might. Gaza has destroyed any sense of moral superiority. And I think Russia has just crushed the idea that the U.S. has good weapon systems. So it just, there it is. It's over. It disappeared in like 3 years. That whole thing just disappeared. 2 years. I think and right now we're just running on faith and belief. But just a matter of time before the rest of the world wakes up. That's pretty powerful,
though.
But
it's amazing. Sometimes, I think that what you said is basically true. But but there are a lot of people who still are living, in, let's say, the 1990s within this country, as far as their consciousness goes, their awareness goes. And none of those things have gotten through. For them, those 3 pillars are just as firm as ever. And unfortunately, that seems to be true in general of the people that rule over us, the political class. That's part of, I think it's just part of their identity, is that, hey, we're number one. And, if you're saying something else, obviously you're working for the enemy. I think, again, there's sort of it makes me think of the fall of the Qing dynasty, when clearly it became the Western powers, had superior technology and superior militaries, but there was it was very, very hard for the Qing to recognize this, because it was just something so ingrained that, we are the Middle Kingdom, we are the greatest civilization on earth. And, these foreigners, they have their little toys, but in the end, eventually that fell, obviously it did, but they only became, the ruling class only woke up to the fact when it was too late. And then the dynasty fell. And,
I mean, it's definitely already too late, but I think it's a little bit different now. Well, for a couple of reasons. One, I think, is we have social media. So the ability to see things for the masses to understand and see things, the average person, not just, the ruling elite. But the other part is I think the moral pillar. I think that will shake people's faith more than anything, because there's the this, you want to believe that the US is the best, and maybe in the 90s and the 80s it was a lot easier to believe it because it's just like, oh, we got all the best stuff, it's so great, and where everybody loves America and everybody wants to be part of America. That's the case. But what happened, I think, from Gaza, it just, people don't want to be part of America. They don't want America to be all powerful. They don't want the US to be the US hegemon, including people in this country. We don't like it anymore. And I think that itself is causing that faith, that belief that we're just number one. People will turn away from it more rapidly. At least the average everyday citizens, like, now we lost the right to have this type of power a long time ago. I think that's what a lot of people are coming to, and I think that's why it's different. All of these, the moral thing from Gaza, the economic war with China, the direct kinetic conflict with Russia, all of these are destroying the U.S. empire in different ways, very unique. And the Qing dynasty didn't have the exact same setup.
Oh no, it's
like, yeah, right. I know.
Yeah, it's a very.
I think it's in.
I don't want to make too much of it because they are very different situations, but there's some aspects that are analogous. And
yeah, I think with the ruling class, right? Yeah. I think it is interesting, but yeah, I think we're just living through such a unique time where all these three pillars are just being knocked out from under us. So I just think the collapse will be a lot faster than we expect. Would you agree, or do you think that?
Well, I think there's a real chance of it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right. And, again, it's I don't want to make any predictions about time, but it kind of reminds me again and draw another analogy is just to economic bubbles in the past. You see these bubbles and certain people, clear-sighted economic analysts will say, wait a second, this is a bubble. This can't last. And others, will refuse to say, no, this is real. This is going to go on forever. And in the end, the clear-eyed analysts are always proved correct. The bubble pops. But the question is when. And there are a lot of people who can make a lot of money in the in the meantime. It can go on for years longer than you think. But then it does pop. And I would say it's the same thing. I'm not going to make any prediction about when it's going to happen, but I think it just has to collapse. I think there's no question. It's just that's where we're headed.